Salvi, Robert, thanks very much for joining us. Salvi, you recently joined Panattoni to head up the new French unit. Just tell us a little bit more about the strategy for France.
Our strategy for France is pretty clear. We want to replicate what we've done in other countries recently, which is providing our customers with a lot of new products in all geographies across France and all product types. So it's going to be big boxes, obviously, but also light industrial, last mile logistics, and maybe data centers and production facilities.
I'm going to come back to you in terms of the opportunities in a minute, Salvi. But Robert, you're looking at Europe as a whole. So what were the drivers from your side for entering the French market?
I mean, France is the second largest market in Europe. We probably should have entered France much earlier, but we have been very busy in other places in Europe. But we treat France as a kind of a strategic place for us. And with the growth of e-commerce, we feel like France would even gain further significance on the European map, being a large consumption place. So obviously our clients, our investors are very eager to kind of see us on the market, and we'll try to kind of offer very flexible solutions for them. And that was the idea. So it's a strategic market for us. We plan to be long-term. We are a long-term platform in the same ownership for a very long time, since '85. We haven't changed the ownership hands, and we plan to continue that. We are a private organization, and we plan to be strategic and very long-term. So that's the plan we have, and we're very excited about coming to France.
And Salvi, looking at the French market, what are you seeing in terms of some of the key trends and opportunities in the logistics space?
Like in most of Europe, e-commerce and the omnichannel distribution trend is really what is driving the market, whether it's for pure e-retailers, but also from brick and mortar chains. 3PL are also very active, and they are looking for high quality premises close to the city centers across France. So not only on the French corridor, but also in all the major cities across France. So there's a lot of room for us to work on a number of projects and provide them with the properties they are looking for. And they are increasingly struggling to find on the market today.
And is this also reflected across the rest of Europe, Robert? I mean, are you seeing growth in demand across all of the markets?
Now, obviously, growth of demand everywhere in Europe is extremely strong, and we haven't seen that before. And since the pandemic started, we are observing it, and we are kind of a quarter by quarter more shocked positively and excited what's going on. So we were always bullish. That's the nature of us, but now we are hyper bullish. And obviously there are challenges, and the challenges is the supply side. So land availability, construction disruption because of COVID. But I would say probably that these are kind of luxury problems to be sorted. But the demand is extremely strong, and it doesn't seem to kind of change for quite some time. The trend is very strong, and we're excited to continue what we do. So it's a very exciting time for us.
And obviously, Robert, as you know, e-commerce has been driving logistics, particularly in the UK markets, whilst other European markets are in a sort of catch-up phase. Is that one of the signals that you were looking at in terms of this expansion into France?
Absolutely. And that's the kind of our thought process behind Western European markets. I mean, before, development-wise, new stock-wise, there were places in Europe which were a bit more attractive for us, which was Central Europe, which is still very attractive for us. But with the growth of e-commerce and building a new infrastructure for e-commerce and catching up of Southern Europe, which is catching up with UK, e-commerce-wise, we feel like it's a kind of a new opening, completely new opening in terms of new supply, new demand, and new stock to be built. So we feel like it is a start. We feel like it's a start in Western Europe, which so far was considered a matured place, but we feel like it's an emerging place.
And Salvi, from your point of view, how are you seeing that e-commerce pick up? I mean, do you expect that to continue at the same pace in France?
There is a lot of demand coming from e-commerce players and also brick and mortar retailers that want to implement a e-commerce strategy. What we're seeing in France, and that's probably a difference compared to other countries, is that there are probably more barriers to new development, especially for very large fulfillment centers, which means that the demand is just as strong as in other countries, but the supply is probably less than in other countries. So there's a higher disconnect between what has been taken up by tenants in the e-commerce sector compared to what they've done in other countries. So there's a lot of room for growth in the country for these players.
Really interesting to catch up on the French market, and very interesting from a strategic point of view to see Panattoni expanding into the French market. Thanks very much for joining us, Salvi and Robert.
Thank you, Richard. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.